I'm in Brisbane, Australia, third biggest city in the country. I haven't been here since 2012. It's now 2023. And this city is where I was born. So I've been here in Brisbane now for about 2 weeks, and as many of you know, I teach English on Cambly, and I talk to a lot of students all around the world who talk about living abroad in different countries. So I thought while I'm here, I'll do a short video about the differences between Brisbane, Australia and Loja, Ecuador. Okay, so some of the things you'll notice immediately as soon as you arrive in Brisbane, especially if you're arriving from somewhere like Ecuador. Brisbane is incredibly modern and clean, and everything works. It's absolutely beautiful. There's no garbage, there's no rubbish anywhere. There's no dog shit. I have been riding and walking around Brisbane now for about 2 weeks, and I haven't seen one steaming Grogan anywhere. Not one pile of dog shit. You know, I mean, okay, so the tourist areas in Ecuadorian cities are clean, but as soon as you get outside of the tourist areas, all the streets are absolutely covered in dog shit. You got to watch where you're going, which means you're looking at dog shit all the time. You're stepping in dog shit. I mean, there's just dog shit everywhere. So to come to a place like Brisbane, which is absolutely spotless, after a year and a half in Ecuador, it's amazing. It's like shocking. You forget that a city can be clean like this. So I haven't been to Brisbane for about 11 years. Last time I came here, I rented a car. This time I decided to not rent a car. In Ecuador, I'm car free. I ride my bike everywhere. So before I rented this bike, I've been using a lot of public transport. So here in Brisbane, you need one of these, Go card. You load it up with cash, and then you can use this same card for the buses, the trains, and the boats on the river. the City Cat. It's pretty cool. The transport system is fantastic. I've been using it a lot to get everywhere and have had no trouble. The only problem is it's kind of expensive. It's pretty expensive. And in Ecuador, you can get from one end of the town to the other for like 35 cents on a bus, or $1.50 or $1.25 in a taxi. Here, man, every trip is like $3 or $4. So it is a bit expensive, but it is a very good, very efficient, very reliable system, and it's really safe. I've had absolutely no issues. I caught the train home the other night, late at night, and there was even security guards on the train. You know, there's no drama. It was easy. So I rented a bike for 3 days, and I gotta say, the bike infrastructure here is incredible. It is off the charts good. Clearly there's a lot of people in the city council that understand cycling, riding bikes, riding scooters is part of the traffic congestion solution. It has to be, right? And they have spent millions and millions of dollars on amazing bike infrastructure. Just check out some of these trails I was riding on. It's also really nice and refreshing to know that somebody's going to stop for you if they're driving a car and you step out onto a zebra crossing. People obey the road rules here. It's such a shock. It is absolute reverse culture shock from Ecuador, where the drivers in Ecuador obey absolutely no road rules. They are just crazy, and they do not care about pedestrians or people riding bikes. As you've seen in my other videos, they will zoom through a zebra crossing honking at a woman pushing a baby in a stroller. I've got that on video and I've seen it many times. Here in Brisbane, it is safe to ride a bike. It is very safe to be a pedestrian. Big difference. Let's talk about culture. Brisbane is extremely multicultural. As I've been walking around town here, taking photos and videos, I've heard so many different languages and seen so many people from different countries. And it's fun now because after working on Cambly for 2 years, I can actually recognize these different languages now. So I know I've heard people speaking Turkish, speaking Arabic, of course lots of Spanish, French, you know, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. It's incredible. There are people here from everywhere. It's great. Something else we should talk about is cost of living. I am still absolutely reeling from sticker shock here in Brisbane. It is such an expensive place. I absolutely can't believe how expensive it has become since I was last here in 2012. It's completely shocking. I just can't even express it. The minimum wage in Australia is $23 an hour, but I don't know. I mean, okay, that's pretty good for a minimum wage, 23 Australian dollars, but I don't know if that, I mean, you'd have to be making a little bit more than that to live comfortably in Brisbane, I think, maybe a lot more. If you're still working like I am, you know, I work for Cambly, I teach English online, that only pays $10 an hour, and you know, that's not great. But in Ecuador it's enough, you know, in Ecuador it's enough to pay my bills. So, you know, for somebody like me to consider coming back to Australia, I would have to find something that pays substantially more than Cambly. I mean, teaching English online for a place like Cambly is simply not an option in an expensive place like Australia. It's just not enough. So one of the reasons that we moved to Ecuador was to get away from Western culture. It was to get out of that rat race and stop working so much, you know, have a little bit more flexibility. And in Ecuador you can do that. I still work, but I don't work as much, and I can set my own hours. And you know, if I was to consider coming back to a place like Australia, that would all change. I would have to get a 9 to 5, and I would be back in the rat race. So it really depends on what you want and what stage you're at in life. If you don't mind, if you like working 40, 45, even 50 hours a week, and you want to live in a super safe, super modern city like Brisbane, then you might like it here. It's pretty great. But if you're like me and you want to start to wind down, and you want to be able to go hiking in the Amazon and ride your bike more often, you know, find more of a balance, I just don't know if somebody in that situation could make Brisbane work. All right, so obviously I think Brisbane has a lot going for it, but there are some things that Brisbane does not have. For example, Brisbane doesn't have the cultural experience that you're going to get in a country like Ecuador. Ecuador is so vastly different from a Western country. It's, I mean, you just can't, it's hard to even describe. Obviously there's the language, you know, everyone speaks Spanish, but there's the indigenous culture, there's the art, there's the music. When you're living in Ecuador, you feel like you are a million miles away from the United States, or from Australia, or from UK. I mean, it feels so profoundly different in Ecuador. It's hard to describe. So if you are looking for a place that is not only very cheap and very friendly, but if you're looking for a place that has a different cultural experience, you really want to broaden your mind and push the envelope as far as what life can be, then a country like Ecuador is leaps and bounds ahead of a country like Australia. But there's a price to pay, right? I mean, Ecuador is a developing country, and like I've already mentioned, the streets are literally covered in trash and dog shit. So if you can stomach that, if you can live with that, then you'll be able to enjoy all the other benefits that a place like Ecuador has to offer. He's one of those city cats. This is public transport here in Brisbane. How cool is that? Well, hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone who's bought me a pizza or a coffee recently. You guys, you're fucking legends. You know that, right? Thank you. If you found this interesting, give me a like or give me a subscribe. If you want to see some of the street photography I did while I was here in Brisbane, check out my other video about that. And if you want to see some GoPro footage of me riding my bike around Brisbane on all this amazing bike infrastructure, I've got another video about that. All right, I'm back in Ecuador now.